In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create this wonderful donut chart here, but then with a line connecting to the slice and showing the title as well outside. And you can see here, if you hover over it, it shows it, and it shows the matching colors as well. And this is very interesting to do, because with this, you don't have to basically have your tooltip. So let's start to look how we can create this connecting line, get the table, get the labels, and then of course getting the starting point here nicely on the donut chart. In this video, we're going to focus on how to create a donut chart with labels outside with connecting line in chart.js. And this question came from multiple places already. I've seen it very often. However, I never created a video about this, so let's start to focus on this. And you might say, and if you're very familiar with chart.js, there is a label outside plugin, or it's called a chartjs-plugin-pieoutlabels, but that one, sadly enough, is not suitable for chart.js 3. This hasn't been updated for the latest version, so that would mean that we need to create something our own. So we're going to create our complete own plugin based on this. So what we need to do first is go to chartjs3.com, getting started, or this specific link here, and get the default code. So what I'm going to do here is, and you might notice this, for some reason my Google Chrome gives an error. Anyway, scroll down here, copy all of this information here, and then we're going to just paste that in here. Once we've got that, I'm going to cut out this title here, put it in there. Alright, and then save this and refresh. There we are. So now, once we did this, what we need to do now is to start to convert it into a donut chart. So we're going down here, we say here donut. And then if we do this, of course, our scales need to be removed because there's no scales in a donut chart. Save this, refresh. Alright, we get here something. And then what I want to do is I want to reduce this amount here to 400 pixels. Refresh. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some adjustments. Because this is currently how we have to do it. Because if we're going to put these lines, connecting lines here, we need more space on left and right. We can reduce the pie chart size, but what would make far more sense is to make a rectangle instead of a square. And I remove all of these labels or these legend values here because they don't need to be shown if they're already shown with a connecting line. So what I'm going to do here is just go in here in options. We say plugins. In the plugins, we're going to say legend. And then we'll say here display false. Save that, refresh. Alright, so now we have the first thing. The second thing what I want to do here is change basically the aspect ratio. So I'm going to say here, just below the options, maintain aspect ratio, and pay attention to the letter A and letter R, which are capitalized. We say here false, comma. If I save this now and refresh, you can see here now it becomes more like a rectangle shape, which is perfect for us because we need some space at the side to show these values here. Alright, so the next thing what I want to do is I want to make this donut chart, or the ring of the donut chart, a bit more thinner. We're going to have a cut out percentage. We'll make it nice and thin. So in here, put a comma, and then we say cut out, and then we say here, let's grab, I think 90 or 95% should be sufficient. So let's say here 90%. If I save this now, refresh, there you are, that looks already a bit more nicer. And then what I want to do here, comma, just for the sake of it, a border radius. And that makes it just a bit more appealing. So border radius, and then we say 20 pixels. Save that, refresh, and there you are. So that starts to look a bit more nicer. Of course, we could do an offset here. If you desire that, we can do here an offset. And an offset means some space between. Let's say here 10 pixels. If I do that, you can see here now it starts to have some space between and then expands a bit. In our case, or in my case here, I will not work on this. So I'll just leave it like that. Alright, so what I want to do now is basically the following. We need to create now a tooltip. Or, sorry, not a tooltip, a plugin. And you can see here, we want to have the line, but the line should be at the center. If we have a connecting line, it should point to the center of every segment of this donut ring or donut chart. So the best thing here is that the tooltip has the X and Y coordinates that is exactly in the center. So if we can pinpoint that, it becomes extremely easy for us to work with, because finding the official center of it is quite tricky, because basically if you really think about it, this is a ring, it's 360 degrees, and then here would be the center, and then we would have to calculate calculate triangles. That's a mathematically very complicated item, especially depending on the size, and it can change every time. So having the ability to extract just the tooltips here is absolutely a time saver for us. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to create a plugin, and then in here we say here comma, then we say plugins, and let's call this plugin, or what's a nice name, Doughnut, I don't know, Outlabels or Doughnut labels line. Alright, very simple, nothing fancy, just something simple. And in here I'm going to say this, and then I'll say here plugin. This is our Doughnut label line block, and then we say here constant is that, and then here curly braces, and then we say here ID, put in the Doughnut line here. This is basically optional, because only you would need this if you would do something in the options here as well. But anyway, that's alright for now. Just have it in there in case we need to do something. And then what I want to do is basically the following. And in here I'm going to indicate the timing for drawing. So we say here after draw, meaning we want to draw everything first, and then at the very end these lines will be added. And then we can say here the following. We're going to get here chart, comma, arguments, comma, options. So most of them we won't be using. The only one that will be important for us is the chart. Right? So, and then in here we're going to say constant. And this constant will be a object destructuring equals chart. Alright. But here we're going to say ctx, comma, chart area. And this is important. I'll tell you later on why. Then we need here, well, we can just grab all the items, the top, the bottom, left, comma, right, and I want the width and the height. Very important here. So what are they? Basically, they will indicate the area where we work with. So this is very important, because if you would have a legend, your height or your starting point of the chart is somewhere here below, because there must be a bit of text or space available for the legend, which makes sense. So that would mean that your starting point is lower, and then that imaginary line where the tooltip, or sorry, not the tooltip, the Doughnut chart starts, would be called the top part. Alright, so this is very important, and the height would indicate then the height minus how much the legend takes. So if you really want to learn more about that, I would say look at my other video about how to create an arbitrary line in chart.js, because that's specifically on the line chart. It will explain it, and bar chart. It will explain it a bit more, because here we don't have a very strong visual of the chart area. Basically, the chart area right now is just this 300 by 400 in width by 300. That's the chart area here. In a line chart bar chart is slightly different, so watch that video. I highly recommend you to watch that video if you want to understand more about that. For now, I want to go deep into it, because a Doughnut chart doesn't really have these scales and the axes. So it does have an area or chart area, but the chart area is basically the full canvas, which is normally not the case for other types of charts. Anyway, so what we're going to do now, we have this here, and probably the best thing would be now is just to put in here something. So I'm going to put in here some extra space, and here let's do console log and just get the top of our item. So if I do this now, refresh, you will see here, oh sorry, not refresh, but also open up developer tab, you can see here 0. If I would do here legend, well, let's remove this so it will be set on true by default. You can see now it's 454. So that was the space here. This is very important information. Anyway, for us, we don't need this. What I want to do now is really to go and loop through the item. We're going to use a for each functionality here. We're going to get the chart. So if I'm going to grab the chart, I'm going to show you this, refresh. And you can see a lot of information. Don't worry about that. But the most important one basically in here the following. In the chart, I want to go here and search for data. Let's see here. Let's see if I can find the data. There you are. This is the data, which is an object itself. And this object, of course, consists of all of the items. So what I want to do is I want to loop through each data set. In this case, we only have one data set, so it doesn't matter so much, but we can loop through them using a for each. so that if you would have 2 or more, it would create eventually additional lines. Although the lines here, to be honest, are not very effective if you have a multiple donut chart ring, of like a multi-layer donut chart. So in this case, it's only single. Anyway, let's start with this, because now we know exactly where you can get the data. We go in here, we say dot data and then dot data sets. If I save this now, we should see here just only specifically the data set here, single data set, and then here all the information. So what I'm going to do now is the following. I'm going to say here chart, and then I'm going to say here dot data sets, which is basically the upper part, and then we see a dot for each. And the for each allows us to loop through every data set we have. Of course, in this case, we only have one data set. So I'm going to say here data set, comma, I can see I for iteration, and then here we loop through them, because this I, or this is iteration or index, sorry, that will be the index basically. But I'm going to use I here. Later on I'm going to use index for another for each, because we need to use 2 for each. First one loops through the data sets, second one will loop through the data points, as you can see here. So this will be, both of them will be in here. So this is very important. And then in here, what we're going to do is the following. We're going to say here, alright, chart dot get data set meta. Then I'm going to say here I. If I do this, do a console log here, let's see what we get. Save that, refresh. Alright, so what happens now is basically we get all of the data we need. And you have here the data set, the parse values, etc, etc. And here even the data, and as well a lot of x and y coordinates, which shows us a lot of important information here. For us, eventually, another item will be very important, which will be based on the value. So what we're going to do here is the following. I'm going to say here, this we're going to loop through this, because here basically we get the dataset meta, which is then dataset number 0, because there's only one dataset here. So then we can say here chart. We're going to grab this, well basically we just grab this, put it in here, and then we say here dot the data, because then we go from here, we go into the data. That will be this one here, data. And here we see a lot of information that we eventually need, but of course this is not only one, there's still more in here. Anyway, what we need is the following. I'm going to say your data and then dot for each. Then in here, now I'm going to say here data points or data point, then the index. So we have this one, and then here of course the functionality, and within here we're going to start getting or extracting the specific information. And what I really need here is the following. I need to get here the data point, or at least from the data point. Well, let's do a console log first on this, and then I'm going to comment out this console log, save that, refresh. Let's see if we can get, or do we have too many console logs? You can see here I'm going to remove that one as well. Don't need all of this excess data here. Gives only confusion. So save that, refresh, and look what we get. We get all the information here. And this here will eventually get the x and y coordinates, but there's still more under the radar. You can see a start angle, and probably it shows you the every exact position here. This is being calculated. So this is a really complicated part, because here this goes all automatic, so that saves us a lot of time. So that would mean the following here. What I want to do here is just the data set, and then we say here dot tooltip position, and this information here, if I save this, let's see if it works. Alright, you can see here now it does a lot of information, and it creates here the exact coordinates and the location of specifically the tooltip. Just this tooltip caret here, meaning this point here. So what we're going to do is, with this we can basically start drawing the lines with our starting point, because the hardest part was to figure out the center point, or the center of this segment here, of every single segment. Now we get the information, so we can play around with it. So what I'm going to do here is the following. I'm going to say a constant, and this constant I'm going to make a data object destructuring, meaning I'm going to split them out. I destructure them and take them outside of this tooltip position so we can use them. So this is the X and this is the Y value. And this X and Y value will be equal to the data point tooltip positioning, which is, in other words, these two here. Now I grab one of those and I can grab then the X or the Y, it will grab this. And this is quite nice information to have, because now let's comment out that one up right here. We can start drawing. So what I want to do here is, well, let's try one of the things. So I'm going to do here a, let's do a fill style. So I'm going to give here a black item or black color square. Let's make a fill style square. So ctx fill style, and then I'll say here black. And then what I want to do is ctx dot rect style or rect. Yeah, I guess that's a rect style. Sorry, that should be here in parentheses. And then here we get the X and Y value. So basically, it's the starting point X and Y. So I'm going to say X, Y, which is the starting point in this one here is the starting point on the horizontal axis. This is starting point on the vertical axis. And then what I want to say here, how many pixels width and how many pixels wide height. So right now I'm just doing 10 pixels. If I save this now, no, let's see what's going on. It gives us here CT like this. Alright, rect style. But this is fill style. Rect style, alright. Let me check. Alright, yeah, I thought so. I had something mistaken in here. So this should not be rect style. No, this should be, the rect should be last and the fill is first. So we're going to save this now and refresh. There we are. Now you can see here, we're getting the positions nicely. You can see here, you might wonder why is this there? Well, what is really focused on is the corner where it starts. And that's the biggest concern I have. And that one, if I do only one by one, you might notice as well. I'm not sure if you're able to see it. It's very, very minor. I guess let's do this 2 by 2 to just see it a little bit more clear. Alright, so now you get it a bit more clear. So this is the starting point, or exactly the 1 by 1 is the starting point. And now we have it in a nice loop. So what I want to do here now is start to create a line. From this starting point, I'm going, this line needs to be pointed outwards or one or the other way, depending on where we are located. So this is the more tricky part, because we need to have a line here, but if we are here, we need to have a line that side, not there, or else we miss it out. So how are we going to do this? Well, let's play around with it, because now we're going to play with the more advanced items. First of all, I want to make sure I always get the colors, and the colors should be directly the border colors matching. So if it's purple, it should be dark purple color. This should be the color here. Alright, so to do this, that's quite straightforward, luckily, because we already have here the index value. So how can we do this? I'm going to say here the following. We're going to data sets here. Yes, because the data sets is basically this one here. Let's data point. Let's grab this and just only show you this one. Save that, refresh. Unexpected 92. Alright, that one is of course not allowed because I need to have here at least this, or else it gives an error. Alright, so there you are. So I want to get the data sets in line 89. And on line 89 we get this data set here. Then we can go here to border color. And the border color we can get here whatever color we want. But I want to get whatever the border color is here, that should be matching with the line. So I'm going to say here, well, basically it will be eventually here. We get the data set dot border color, and here this will be based on the index. And the index is this one, not that one. And the reason why I'm going to grab this index here, because this one only has one data set. So that's index 0 all the time. And this one here is the data itself, whatever we grab here. Very important here. So if I would do this now, and I would save this, and let's make this 10 by 10, we would see now nice matching color coordinated items. Alright, so enough proof about this. You can imagine now what we need to do. So what we're going to do now is basically the following. We need to calculate basically our location. Well, we have our location here now, but we need to calculate now the right item. So let's see, how do we do this? Well, because we have to do here, first of all, we have the positioning here, but just to be sure. So what we're going to do now is just to be sure as well, first of all, this can be comment on, but I want to focus on here to make sure that this color is always consistent. So I'm going to put in here a ctx.fill, put in there, and this one can be removed as well. So where we're going to start now is to figure out first, if we're going to draw the line, we must understand here or here and how that will work. So I guess what we can do here is to build a certain level of logic. Basically, it's this. We know the width of our item here, and we also know the y coordinate. This would, or sorry, the x coordinate. So this would mean we could, if we do a console log, we could see, if I do x here, we could see here the exact coordinates here, depending on which side you are. All right, and all right, and that one is not expected, so we have to later on check what's going on. And you can just comment out this for now. But what we really want to do is basically this one here. We want to make sure that if we are in the center here, or basically whatever the center is, we can calculate the width of that by getting this one here. And what I want to do is that if the x value would be below the center, so if this center would be 400, alright, so that will mean that the center, oh sorry, this is 400 in width, center should be 200, so everything previously would be 200, so then it needs to point to the left. But if it's beyond 200, it needs to always point the line to the right. So that's what we're going to do right now, and later on I saw this black color here, so we might need to fix that one as well. Anyway, what we're going to do here first, to draw the line, I'm going to say this. So I'm going to say a draw line, and this line should be based on wherever we are located. So we'll say a constant, I'll say half, the half of the height would be equal to height divided by 2. And I'm talking about that because we have the height here. So this one is important, and the reason why is because if we are here up, we want to make a line pointing up here. But if we're here, we don't want to point up anymore. We want to point it more down. So it would be down line like that. Same here, exactly the opposite direction. So that means that there needs to be a comparison structure in here that we can see if we are where we are located. So this will be the half width should be equal to width divided by 2. All right. So then what I want to do is the following. I'm going to say here that basically let's start to draw something before we even continue on with the logic. I want to just draw the line, and then I'll say here ctx.begin path. So we're going to say, all right, start drawing something and make a starting point. The begin path will be where exactly ctx move to. But move to might sound very confusing because you might say, well, this is a starting point and then he's moving here, or the line is moving there. No. Basically, the begin path indicates there is no line. The first dot is being drawn, and the dot where it's going to be drawn will be on this coordinate here. So where is this exactly? Well, that's this one here. Basically, our x and y. So the moment we have this, what I want to do next is to create the line now. Now we're going to create the official line. We'll say ctx then line to. So this is an official line. So this is basically starting with the dot, and here's the line, and then you say here, where are we going? Well, for now, I will just make it very simple. I'm going to say here plus 15, comma y plus 15. So if I do this, and then what I need to do here is probably to give it a color. So I'm going to say ctx, and then I guess here we have this. I can say a stroke, and this is the stroke style. And the stroke style is basically, if you think about a stroke, is a line. Think we're working here with canvas. Canvas means a painting. Basically, a blank canvas is like a white painting. that is still not being painted on, and we can start to draw on it like that. So that's basically a blank sheet to start paint on. And when you use a brush, you make a line. We call it a brush stroke. So a line is basically a stroke with your brush. So in here, what we're going to do here is we're going to grab which color is, where is it? There we are. This is the fill style color that we grabbed, that we made first already. We prepared that in advance. And then what we're going to say here, ctx dot, let's see here, restroke, so it will be drawn. So once we did this, here we can save this and just refresh and see what's going on. As you can see here now, we have our first line pointing down. Of course, we don't want this yet because we want to do something more appropriate. So what I want to do first is to make it flat, so like a straight line. So for that, I just want to say here, we will not change anything on the Y. The Y indicates the height or up and down positioning or the vertical positioning, and this here indicates the horizontal positioning. So in this case right now, I'll just say here plus nothing else here. If I do that, let's see what happens. Now we get a straight line. Alright, I don't want a straight line, I want basically going up to the left, or to the right, sorry. So going up, then right, and here down, right, then here left, left diagonal and to the left, as you can see here. And then this one might be maybe like that, something like that. So how are we going to play around with that? Well, we have this here, and this here can help us to calculate the position, because we have here the width. How do we calculate the width? Well, the width here is 400 and the center is 200. So now you understand, now you understand the logic. So if everything is below 200, so this side, we must always go to the left. So let's play around with that. So I'm going to create here now the if statement. I'm going to say a constant, and then I will say here the x line. Alright, and the x line will be if x value is a larger or equal to, well, the half width, which is the 200 pixels. So if it's larger or equal to 200 pixels, if that is the case, then I will say x plus 15. Why plus 15? Because this is horizontal level. So if it's beyond this part, plus 15, meaning that we need to go to the right side. And then else, if it is not, then I say x minus 15, then we're going to the left side, exactly the opposite direction. So once we have this, we can just grab this one, and then here, we will say here, we can put in this one, there. So if I save this now, refresh, now we can see here, we're starting to do something right. And then what I want to do here, of course, I want to control the position as well. You can see here, maybe we could even extend it a little bit more in pixels, but that's alright for now. And then what I want to do is the following, is the Y line. So we have here the Y line, and that will be exactly the same, except not anymore on X value, but on the height, which is the Y value. So if everything is somewhere here, this is probably the center. I'm not 100% certain, but you can see here, imagine this somewhere here is the center. So if it's in the center, or everything below the center should go point down. Everything above the center should point up. Because you can see here, we get an issue here, of course. So what we're going to do here is the Y line, and then the Y line equals Y half height is Y plus 15 and minus 15. So now if we do this, you can see here, oh, of course it doesn't work yet. Why? We didn't get here the Y line. Assign it here. Save that. Refresh. Alright, so now we have basically the first part here. And now what we want to do is create a straight line or a flat line afterwards. So to do this, what we need to do here is the next item. So we're going to say here the following. Let's see here. In here we need to create a new line. So we're going to say here ctx line 2. So this is another line, and this line will go, because this will be the starting point, basically we'll grab it there, and then it will just extend that line going where exactly. Well, let's see here. Here basically I'm going to say here, well, let's say here plus 15. So if I save this now and refresh, now you can see we get a line here. Of course, same issue. Depending here, it's fine. And this one is fine, but I think here it's being clipped out. So we're going to fix that later on. But this one here is also going 15 to the right. And of course, I don't want that. I want this to be, of course, based on our calculation here. So just for this, I'm just going to make a simple constant. And I will call this the, let's see here, the extra line. Extra line. And this line will be also based on x. Exactly identical. We say half width, and I guess we could probably fine tune this more, but that's alright. If that's the case, I say you 15, and so if x is larger than the half width, we want to have 15, and if x is smaller, then we say minus 15. Why? So then here, if the larger is plus 15, that's fine, but here minus 15 because it's in the smaller half, so we go then to the opposite direction, to the left. So then what I will say here, plus extra line. Save that, refresh, and now we have our line here. This one here, let's quickly fix this. I'm going down here. In the options here, I'm going to say here layout, and then I'm going to put in padding. Padding, and this padding will be, let's say 20 pixels, or 20, sorry. Comma, save, and let's see if that works. That works better. Alright, so you have to play. That's the only tricky part. You have to play because it's not 100% perfect. We can make it more perfect, but it requires a lot of deep calculations and logic. And I will avoid that for now. This is just to create one here. Alright, so we have this now here. We're really almost done here. What I want to do now, of course, is get the text. So how do we grab here now the text? So let's look at this. We have here everything. We have the line. What I want to do now is the text. So how do we get the text now? So to get the text, we first need to figure out what will be the text. And to get the text, or what text we want to grab, we need to probably get again here our data set. If I save this here, refresh, open up the developer tab, we can grab here this, and I see, was it 96? Let's remove 96 for now. Don't need that. Refresh. There we are. We click on this, and then when we click on this, we click here on the data, and in the data we can probably find here the labels. Or no, it's not even in here, I realize. And it should be in the data set. Am I grabbing the data set? Yes, I grabbed the data set. Alright, so what we can do is slightly different because we are in the data set, and the problem is it's not in the data set, it is in the data. It's chart.data.label. Alright, so you can see here chart.data label. In the data, and we are right now in the data set, so we need to jump one up. Well, just the simplest way for us to do it is just to grab this here and then say here, I'm going to do here, where's the console out here? Just say labels. If I save that, refresh, there you are. We grab all of these here. So I'm going to copy this, comment this out. And then what I want to do here is, first of all, let's grab this here, and then we say index. And just to be sure, do I get really the value or the text that I want? Save that. Refresh. Monday. Beautiful. So now we grab here our value that we want. So what I want to do here now is to measure the width of these. And this one is slightly tricky as well, because if you would have a lot of text here, you have to see how that eventually position with each other. Sometimes it will not be very well positioned that you need to move eventually the text more. Anyway, I'll show you later on. So what I'm going to grab here is first the width of this current label. So I'm going to say a constant text width, and the text width equals ctx.measure text, and this measure text will grab the text that we have from here, and we're going to say here, once we did that, and I did here the eyes, and I realized I don't want the eye, and the reason why is I want the index. Why? Index loops through the I is always 0 because there's only one data set, but the index is always looped through multiple items. This is the reason why it was only showing Monday. If I show you this here on index, you will see what I mean. If I save that, refresh, you can see here everyone. Alright. That was the most important one, so maybe you will get confused if you see the I. Alright, so we got this one here, and I will say here dot width. What this really does is the following. It will grab the text, convert it into a pixel amount, and then we have here the pixel amount of the fonts or the text. And this is important for us. So if I save this, you will see here now, refresh, the amount of pixels here, all the text is approximately 16 to 20 or 15 to 20 pixels, which is correct because only 3 characters, so it's about like 5 or 6 pixels per character. That's fair enough. Alright, what I want to do now is, well, we're going to put in the text, so I'm going to say here, very simple, ctx.font, and then I'm going to say equal to, and then we can indicate here the font. Let's say 12 pixels, Arial. Simple, nothing fancy. Then the next thing is to eventually set the position. Here I'm going to control the position, and this one is of course the most tricky one here. Now I'm going to say here, first of all, let's do here, let's add up the text here. So I'm going to say here the following, ctx.fill text, and then here the filler of the text will be based on this, because this is the text. Remember, that's the Monday, Tuesday, etc., etc. And then what I want to do here is say comma and then the position. Well, the simplest way I would just say is x line, comma, and so that's x and y value. So this is x line, and then I will grab the y line. And the reason I'm doing this is just to figure out where are we now in the position. And now you can see here it shows something, but of course we're not at the right place. Here it's not correct, so we need to do here again, it's like the if statement option, and here we need to be more at this dot here. So we're going to push that. So the y line, I guess is the y line plus extra, would probably grab us there. And if I save that, refresh, and this one works here. That one does not work. Alright, so it doesn't matter, we're going to work on that, because here we need to do exactly the opposite of what we did here. So what we need to do here next is, first of all, I want to position it to the center here, or this is what we call the baseline positioning. So that's an easy one. So I'm going to say here the following. Let's say ctx.text, and I'll say here baseline, and the baseline will be middle, so it will be in the center. Because right now it's probably at the top. So if we go more down, this will be the center point. And I guess, did it work? Apparently it does not work. Alright, fair enough. So then what we're going to do here is to look, baseline maybe needs to be single L, or a small L, not with a capitalized L, only B needs to be capitalized. Refresh, there we are. So now we're getting slightly better. So this is beautiful. And what we want to do next is basically figuring out here our extra line, or at least this position that needs to be there. And maybe we should have even these fonts in our nice color, so I'm going to do that as well. So I'm going to say here font, and then we have here text align, and then where's the fill text? Alright, fill text is here. And I think what we need is the following. I'm going to grab that one here. Where is that fill style? Where are we? Stroke style. This is stroke style. Alright, so I don't want the stroke style here. I want to fill up the text completely. So I'm going to put it in here, and I will say here fill style. So if I save this now and refresh, there we are. We get already the nice colors, and now let's position them correctly. Let's push this onto the back. So how do we do this? Well, we need to get here basically the position, and we know here how much is our text here. So we can push that basically, it starts here, but we probably can push that just there. So how do we push that one? Let's see here. Let's see, this will be slightly tricky. So what we can do first, I realize that should be one, is the left or right positioning. And what with that means, you can start here. This is the left or right. So we had the baseline, and the baseline was based on the y coordinates. Then we can put it top, bottom, center, etc., etc. But you also have left, right, text align, which is the x or the horizontal alignment. And I guess that will be the best one to start with. So I'm going to say here ctx, and then we say here text align with capital A. And here this text align, let's see here, if we do this one now on the right side, what happens now if I save that? Then we have this. Alright, oh, I guess that will be very, very easy for us. So now all we have to do here is the following. We're going to start moving this to the left or right. So how do we calculate this one? Is again here. I'm going to say here a constant. This will be an if statement constant. And I will say here, what we can say is the text. Well, I want to say text align, but I cannot use the same term here. So I will say text position. Or the text x position equals, and then we say x. If x is larger or equal to the half width, which is this one, of course, remember. If that is true, in that case, what I want to do here, I want to say, make sure there's a question mark. If that is true, then I want to say this will be left. If that is not true, then I want to say text align will be right. As I grab this, I can put it in here, save that in here, and refresh. And you can see here we grab this one here, and it's very narrow here. I would like to put in maybe a pixel additional on that. So if I would do that, how would I be able to put in here? Maybe we can say here they have width measure text. Maybe what happens if I do here text width plus 5. I save that. We get no, it doesn't work at all. Alright. So what we need to do then is basically at the very end here we should have like 5 pixels as well. Let's see. Alright. So basically there's a very easy way to do it, and there's a bit more complicated way. Because what it really works on is on this one here. So if I do here plus 5, you will see here, refresh, you can see we get 5 pixels here, and we get here, well, it goes more to the right. So that means plus 5 if we are here, and minus 5 here. So all we can do is, for this easy way, is you can see here, is just to expand that one. Or if you really are eager to easy, I would say here, just put a space here and a space at the very end here. So this would be the most easiest way, because it will put a space between everywhere. Although I was expecting it to work here, but I'll probably, if it do this, you will see this one will work. There we are. So that will be the easiest one. But maybe you say, well, hold on, this is not really professional, and I agree with that. So don't do that one then. Only if you are in a hurry, time hurry, or time constraint. So what we're going to do here, just simple, I guess, basically, just simple here. What I'm going to say here, I would say, I'll just call it plus 5 px, alright, pixels. So if that is the case, in that case, I would say here, this is 5, and else it is minus 5. Very straightforward. So I'm going to say here, and then again, plus this. So if I save that now, refresh, we should see here now nicely this. So what happened if we have this here, if we maybe increase it to 15 pixels, will this impact our design? No, as you can see here, it works nicely. Of course, it might impact if you would say here the layout. If this layout goes away, you have to recalculate everything. As you can see here, you might need to recalculate, but of course this doesn't work. And if you set this on true, save, then here, same story. Then probably you need to have multiple structures all helping each other. Well, in this case, this is fine here. And what is very nice here is this. I'm going to show you that because I really like that one. Set this on false again. Save that. Refresh. What is very nice is basically this all works. And oh, sorry, that was what I was trying to say. The movement. I love the movement in here, so it will really see it's a part of the entire Doughnut chart. So anyway, so this is basically how and what you can do with it. And if you like this, or maybe you're even interested in more advanced items, to make this even clickable, that you can click this and go somewhere else or make a link out of it, I have another video that shows you how to create a clickable pie and donut chart with links. So when you click on a slice, or in this case the donut ring, we could then highlight or move to another page, to another website, etc., etc.